Good evening and welcome. You're watching the Newstrack. I'm Rahul Kamal. To live in Bengaluru, you no longer just need to know coding, you also need to know swimming. Water inundating several parts of India's garden city. You've got boats out on several roads. The city struggling to deal with rainfall like rarely before. That's my top focus on the Newstrack tonight.
Bengaluru's wealthy clambering into boats. Tech CEOs forced to take tractors. The most upscale areas underwater. Breather from the rain, but the flood waters stay. Girl dead, crores lost, city on its knees. Isn't this Bengaluru's poll issue number one? The big focus on Newstrack.
It isn't the number one poll issue, but it ought to be. We had politicians screaming on all kinds of communal issues, Hindus versus Muslims. But when it comes to civic apathy, when it comes to the city deluged, not one politician is speaking out. Why is that the case? We look at that and more. Here are the headlines. I'm tracking tonight. Political blame game erupts as parts of Bengaluru still remain inundated. Congres snipes at Chief Minister Bommai, says the state capital has been reduced to jokes and memes. NIA charge sheet in the Dakshina Kannada Bajrang Dal worker Harsha murder case accessed. Probe agency says hatred against Hindus and hijab Rao prompted Islamists to kill the saffron worker. Multi-city enforcement directorate raids in connection with the Delhi Liquorgate scam. Multiple locations in the capital raided. Deputy Chief Minister Sisodia claims witch hunt. Needle-free and hassle-free. Bharat Biotech's nasal vaccine against COVID-19 cleared for use. Liz Truss is officially UK's Prime Minister after the Queen formally appoints her at the Balmoral. For 48 hours now, there has been little respite for Bengaluru, and it looks like there won't be any relief soon. It's raining heavily again in several parts of the city. The IT hub of Bengaluru continues to be inundated. Top techies and CEOs were reduced from their posh villas and apartment complexes onto tractors. The downpour in Bengaluru has also claimed its first victim. Akhila was trying to get away from a waterlogged street when she was electrocuted. Here's how India's Silicon City is sinking.
Battered and inundated. The latest round of downpour in Bengaluru has claimed its first victim. 23-year-old Akhila got off her scooty on a waterlogged street on Monday night. Towed it through the waist-deep deluge. Slipped and came in contact with an electric pole. Akhila died from electrocution.
At least if she had come front, someone could have pulled her. But the current, everyone feared her, feared to pull her. She was screaming, help me, help me. No one supported her. So I request the government, please, please take care of the electric poles.
Now ಏನು ಮಾಡೋದು ಮೇಡಮ್, ನಾವು ಕಷ್ಟದಲ್ಲಿದೆ ಮಕ್ಕಳು ಮಗು ಅದೇನಿಲ್ಲ. 8 ವರ್ಷ ಆಯಿತು ಮನೆಗಿದ್ದು. ಆಗಲೇ ನಮ್ಮ ಮಿಸಸ್ಗೆ ಕಾಲುಗಳು ಪ್ಯಾಚರ್ ಆಗಿ ರಾಡೆಲ್ಲ ಹಾಕಿದ್ರು. ಅವರೇ ಹೇಳಿ ಅಂದ್ರೆ ನಮ್ಮ ಮಗುಗೆ ಆಗಿದ ಥರ ಬೇರೆ ಮಕ್ಳಿಗೆ ಆಗಬಾರ್ದು ಅಷ್ಟೇ.
Akhila worked in a local music school. The family lost its breadwinner in an instant to civic negligence. On the front line of the Bengaluru crisis aren't just middle class, the poor and the most vulnerable residents. The floods didn't spare the IT hub's upmarket entrepreneurs either. That's how the chief executive of online education startup An Academy hopped onto a tractor with his family and pet after floodwaters inundated his housing society. Streets of a high-end Yemalur neighborhood where a house costs as high as 8 crore rupees turned into a lake. Luxury cars left stranded as residents carted themselves out on tractor trolleys.
This is not a river. This is outer ring road stretch where tech companies like Microsoft and Intel are located here. They are the ones who contribute to the GSDP of the state of Karnataka with crores and crores of rupees every day, running in hundreds and thousands by the end of the month and by the end of the year. If this is what they get, one can imagine what is the plight of the situation of Paurakarmikas and slum dwellers in the other side of the town.
A metropolis of about 8.5 million and the back office of the world. Bengaluru recorded 131.6 millimeters of rain on Monday night, its wettest September day in the last 8 years. Studies have ironically linked the city's woes to unchecked urbanization. Without soil to soak up excess water, streets tend to become indistinguishable from streams almost every monsoon. A steep decline in green cover and water bodies and a massive increase of more than 1,000% in concretization of the city have rendered Bengaluru vulnerable to the vagaries of the weather. A case study on how brazen development is sending floodwaters into human habitats on the one hand and causing droughts on the other in major cities. With Nagarjun Dwarkanath, Bureau Report, India Today.
Who's responsible for the mess that Bengaluru finds itself in? Politics is clogging the already flooded IT city. The current chief minister is blaming the previous Congres government for poor infrastructure. The Congres in turn is promising a flood-free Bengaluru if it is voted to power in the upcoming elections.
As Bengaluru reels under waterlogging, triggered by a record-breaking rainfall, furious politics erupts over the flooded city. The BJP government, which is facing the heat over IT city's poor infrastructure, has shifted the blame on the previous Congress governments.
This is done because of maladministration and totally unplanned administration of the previous government, Congress government. They have given permissions right, left, center in the lakes, on the tank bunds, on the buffer zones. That is the reason for this.
The Congress is trying to corner the BJP over the city's crumbling infrastructure. The party's youth wing staged a massive protest against the Bommai government. State Youth Congress President Mohammad Nalapad was detained by police as he sat on a dharna. Congress leaders are targeting the BJP for not holding elections for the Bengaluru civic body BBMP. It claims the BJP government has failed to allocate ample funds to improve civic infrastructure.
What is the state of Bangalore city today? An international city submerged in water. This government is a corrupt government. From last 3 years, they have been busy minting money. They have been busy creating communal tensions so that people divert their attention from the real issues.
The BJP government today is an absolute failure, especially in the state of Karnataka. The Chief Minister has shamelessly passed the buck on the Congress governments, on the previous Congress governments. Shame on you, sir. It's been 3 years since you are in power here and there is nothing that is happening.
The Congress also released a video of BJP MP Tejasvi Surya having breakfast at a restaurant in the city on Monday while his constituency was heavily flooded.
We just want them to address this issue at the earliest possible. It's not like we had more rains this year than last year. The rains have been the same. It is just that the problems have intensified in Bangalore. The civic issues have intensified. The IT companies are threatening to leave Bangalore.
Meanwhile, BBMP Commissioner Tushar Girinath says the civic body will remove obstacles in the waterways to prevent flooding.
Most of the places they are in 1 feet or 1.5 feet of water. We are pumping that out. We have put around 50 pumps to service. There are around 12 boats have already been placed yesterday. 15 more boats are being put, so that the evacuation process is done smoothly.
As the citizens grapple with a flooded city, Bengaluru's politicians have let their voters down. India's IT city needs a serious reboot. But are our political classes willing to do it? With Sagai Raj, Priyanka Rudrappa and Nagarjun Dwarkanath, Bureau Report, India Today.
Joining me on the Newstrack to discuss the flooding in Bengaluru, who's responsible for this and why isn't civic apathy one of the big poll issues? I want to welcome Arjun Mohan, Chief Executive Officer at the EdTech Upgrade. We've got Meena Girisballa, CEO at Purple Front Technologies. We've got Dr. T.V. Ramachandra, Associate Fellow at the Indian Institute of Science in Bengaluru. He's actually been researching why Bengaluru finds itself deluged each time there is heavy rainfall and has suggestions on what needs to be done. But there's a lot of politics at play as well. And joining me to discuss that, representing the ruling Bharatiya Janata Party government in the state of Karnataka, its spokesperson Madhu Rao, squaring off against him, Aishwarya Mahadev of the Congres. I want to go across first to Arjun Mohan from Upgrade. I read the message that you'd put out explaining the kind of woes that you had to deal with. So take our viewers through how life's been for you, Arjun, over the last 48 hours in India's IT capital, and who are you blaming for this mess?
First of all, I don't want to blame anyone. These things just happens. So I live in the area which is submerged currently, which is the Bengaluru Outer Ring Road, Sarjapur, Whitefield, this part of the area. A lot of IT companies, a lot of startups work out of that area. So yesterday, the floods were quite bad, and there was no electricity. The apartment complexes were flooded. We all have moved into a world where work from home is possible, but the issue is that when something like this occurs, even work from home is not possible because there's no electricity, no internet. How do you work from home if you can't even go online? So that's what happened. It's been quite a tough time for most of us in the apartment. It took almost 48 hours for the water to evacuate. The administration has been working. There has been a lot of construction happening in this area. For last few months, construction has been slow, could be multiple issue. And I think as a result of that, a lot of pathways for the water to go to the nearby lakes got obstructed. And when it rained, all this happened. So yeah, so that's been the case, but we are all managing and thankfully we will survive.
Okay. Why don't you tell us, Meena, how bad has it been for you over the past 48 hours? How have you been coping and who do you think is responsible for this mess?
It's been terrible. It's been terrible. We never thought it would come to us like this. Zero expectation. As of Sunday night, we looked like very happily living in a beautiful place. Obviously the rains were huge in Bangalore. I don't think any city can even handle this much amount of rain, or no amount of infrastructure maybe can help with this much rains. But having said that, I would say I live in the Emlur-Marthahalli area, which is surrounded by 3 lakes around us, which is the Dodanakundi Lake, the Vartur Lake and the Bengaluru Lake. I feel the civic responsibility of BBMP in maintaining these lakes has just been really poor. If at all, we spend time cleaning those lakes, de-weeding them, building the bunds, maintaining the lakes. If it had been done properly, we wouldn't be in this issue at all in the city today. I wouldn't blame it on the infrastructure. Infrastructure has to happen. Rains have been this way last year as well. So I just wouldn't blame the rising, the buildings and stuff. We do have to grow as a country, as a city. So why can't our Bangalore BBMP folks take responsibility at the same facet and then improve all the infrastructure and maintain lakes, maintain the things around us, well for us. These 3 lakes are connected, which was a known issue right from the beginning. We are tax-paying citizens. We live in a community, we live in a housing where we pay cess, where we pay tax, where we have registered it, we have a-khata. It's not illegal. So nothing about it is illegal. Why is this been this way? I would just purely blame it on the city for poor infrastructure and maintaining of these.
Okay, so we've heard from 2 concerned citizens. I want to go across to the expert. Dr. T.V. Ramachandran actually researches this. Before we get into the political back and forth on why this isn't a poll issue, Dr. Ramachandran, I'm very curious to know from you. There are 2 perspectives. What we heard from Meena is the perspective that infrastructure is important and therefore don't blame the infrastructure. The counter to that is that a lot of this infrastructure has come up in land that earlier used to be lakeland or areas around lakes, and therefore when there is flooding, the water has simply nowhere to go. It comes out onto the roads. Given how bad things are at this moment, who do you think is responsible? Are things in time to come likely to get better, or will it get worse from here?
Well, we need to accept that because of the global warming, the changes in climate is happening. You know, there are high intensity rainfall is happening in the region, throughout the country and throughout the globe. We need to wake up and we need to put our house in order. Now, when you look at Bangalore situation, I would say that the blame is towards the unplanned urbanization. You know, over the last 2.5 or 3 decades, the Bangalore has been concretized. There is no place for the water to seed. You know, if you look at the Bangalore topography, it's an undulating terrain. Taking the advantage of undulating terrains, in 1800 we had 1452 water bodies. Today we have only 193 water bodies. Wow. We had interconnected lake ecosystem. You know, lakes were interconnected, but today the connectivity among the lakes are lost. Raja Kalways have been encroached, and then, you know, you can see if you go to R.R. Nagar, very influential section of the society have encroached the Raja Kalway, or it is the clogged because of the solid waste dumping. When you look at the urbanization, the way the concretization has happened, you know, the city, the landscape, you know, city is about 740 square kilometers. We had a 68% green covers in 73. And today, 85% of our landscape is covered with the concrete. When you choke the region with so much of concretization, in the name of development, we are putting our people into the distress. You know, we are not sure whether our children will come back home safely. You know, this is all because of the poor planning, and people do not even know what are the causal factors. You know, the Raja Kalways, in the name of remodeling, we have been concretizing the Raja Kalway against the natural function of the Raja Kalway. You know, every budget, the Chief Minister goes on announcing 1,500 crore for remodeling the Raja Kalway. This remodeling is nothing but narrowing the Raja Kalway and concretizing the Raja Kalway. When I look at the topo map or the cadastral map, the Raja Kalways, which are 60 meter and 80 meter, for example, between Bengaluru and Nagara, they have narrowed it down to 18.5 meters. There is a limit for corruption. You know, there is a limit for unplanned urbanization or a mismanagement of natural resources. You know, that 18.5 meters, they have done it. Apart from remodeling, they have been wasting on concretization. They also want to help the influential section of the society, the builders and other mafias they are in the region. In the process, Koramangala has the flooding. You know, wherever we people have removed the lake, you see the hotspots of flooding is happening. If you look at Bengaluru and Vartur, we are rejuvenating as per the NGT this one, but even that has not taken the shape still. You know, the rejuvenation process is slow. We have not even evicted the encroachment. You see the slums still there despite the NGT's guidelines. And bureaucracy is so lethargic. And we talk about smart city. We waste money on smart city program. But actually smart city, we are not improving the infrastructure, but we are spending the money in the name of smart city and wasting the resources. I think we need to think about how to plan the cities in India before we launch such a mega program. You know, the 1055% increase in concrete area over the last 4.5 decades, and 88% loss of green cover, and about 80% loss of wetlands. You know, these are all the reasons for the flooding in the region. There is no place for the water to go. You know,
Amazing.
people talk about interlinking rivers. My question to them is, first you interlink our lakes in Bangalore. Our problem of flooding will be solved. Let us identify the lake and the boundary of the lake. Remove all the encroachment and maintain the integrity of the buffer zone. So those are the things has to be done on priority. There's no point in spending 1,500 crore for remodeling.
You know, you've laid out so many facts and figures.
That 1,500 crore. I met it. Yeah.
Go on, go on. I don't want to disturb you, sir. Go on and complete what you're saying, and then I'll build on what you're saying.
Yeah, when Chief Minister announced the 1,500 crore for remodeling of the Raja Kaluways, I met him personally. I gave the report titled Flooding in Bangalore, the Causes and Remedial Measures. I thought that the government official will look at it and implement the thing. Even after 6 months, I don't see anything happening. Let us stop blaming each other. Let us now, what is required is a secure Bangalore, safe Bangalore for our children. We cannot face this. There is no point in urbanizing the Bangalore like this. We should stop urbanization. We need to decongest Bangalore on priority. We need to live in Bangalore. Our children have to live in Bangalore. And our decision maker has to take advantage of the knowledge capital, the kind of the potential that is there in the city. You know, we need to take that and apply it for the thing. These people will go to Ladakh or to the London to understand about the urbanization, smart city or a flooding problem. Why cannot they come to the institution like IISc? We will tell you how to manage the city. That is what should happen. When there are scientists and experts are in the city, the Chief Minister should have, first thing should have done is a brainstorming session in Bangalore, inviting all these experts to understand the problem.
Has there been any brainstorming session so far at all involving experts such as yourself?
No, there is. In fact, I met him. I expected him to come with this one, but I have not seen anything happening in that
Now,
direction.
this is very disturbing, Madhu Rao. It is absolutely true that at institutes like the Indian Institute of Science, and I use this only to make a larger point, there are top national experts who are researching these issues. You aren't speaking with them. You aren't engaging with them. The viewer who's watching at this time will go away thinking that your government is in cahoots with the building construction lobby, which is why in areas that used to be lakes, you now have unplanned construction, a 1,055% increase in concrete area just over the last decade and a half, which is why, as Dr. Ramachandra says, the water has nowhere to go.
Rahul, good evening. First of all, I couldn't have agreed more with Mr. Ramachandra. And let me tell you one thing. I do not want to sound like a politician or sounding from a political party, but it's very impertinent for us to know actually what the reason is. And if I were to take all the cue from what Ramachandra sir has told now, I again go back to the fact of asking myself a question as to who are responsible for this. I get reminded, see, let us try to understand the topography of Bangalore. I know you will ask me some political questions, but before that, let me put a caveat and ask, I just want to clarify a few things. See, there are three major valleys in Bangalore. That's one of the Vishbhavati Valley and the KC Valley and the Hubbali Valley. Now, if you're taking that, if you're thinking as to why there is a lot of flooding which is happening over the ring road, or for that matter, the Sarjapura and Marathalli, that road, it's a fact that was the linkage which has happened to the KC Valley. And unfortunately, there have been some unfortunately given concessions, rather to say approvals for building of so many buildings, and that is one of the reason also. And kindly bear with me, we have never seen rains like this in past 75 to 90 years. I mean, just look at the data. I mean, I do not want to sound very obvious in this. Just look at the data. In 1998, we had got 387 mm of rains. But now, in August, we got 370 mm of rains. I mean, it's equal to the highest average. So therefore, Dr.
Ramachandra, do you buy that argument that these are unprecedented times, that there is rainfall which we haven't seen in 100 years, and therefore don't blame the government and the state? Just one second, Madhu, you've made a point. Let's get an expert's counter and then take it from there. That there is nothing we can do because this is really God unleashing his fury. No, one second, I'm coming back to you.
No, Rahul, this is what I said. Global warming is real and changes in climate is happening. You talked about 340 mm rainfall today. If you get 500 mm tomorrow, don't we get surprised. We need to be wake up and we need to get prepared for that. That is what has to be done. Let us not give excuses and run away. This is what is happening over the last 15 years. You know, lakes have to be interconnected if you want the water to flow in the system. And also, when you look at the kind of the program these people will come up with, for example, illogical Mekedatu project they have come up. When we have 15 TMC of rainwater in the city, we could have rejuvenated the lake and retained that rainwater, which would have met 70% of our demand. Our demand in the city, water requirement is 18 TMC. You know, 18 TMC of water, if we are using, we are also generating 18 TMC of wastewater. If we have treated, we have 15 TMC because of the rainwater and the 16 TMC because of treated wastewater. We would have had 31 TMC. Instead of doing that, rainwater, rejuvenating the lake or wastewater treatment, we want to build a dam at Mekedatu. You know, if you look at Mekedatu, we are going to submerge 5,000 hectares of forest land. If you look at the forest lands have been doing the ecosystem service, hydrological services, they help in the infiltrating 100 TMC of water. But these people want to submerge that 100 TMC worth the forest land and construct a cement dam there to store 65 TMC of water. See, what is the justification for spending 5,000 crore on such illogical project? Why cannot we divert that money for the rejuvenating the lake? That is what Mahatma Gandhi talked about.
That it's a
decentralized harvesting
case
of
of
the water.
flawed priorities. You're spending on infrastructure, you aren't spending on conservation, you aren't spending on ecology, you aren't spending on saving the lakes, which is why you're having to deal, Madhu, with God's fury.
Rahul, on the point of why action has not been taken, let me tell you, just recently, just about few days back, as Mr. Ramchandra was also telling, the BBMP has identified 696 encroachments along the stormwater drains, and the action has already been taken. Now, kindly bear with me. Now, these are all things which has happened. Now, suppose if you want to go and demolish it also, would you not be surprised that people will go and take stay for the demolition drive? Now, that is happening. But nevertheless, government after a lot of thinking which has happened, they are demolishing whatever has been built along the buffer zone. I think Mr. Ramchandra sir also will be accepting this. Efforts have been made to take, but the point of fact I just want to make is that it is unprecedented. One, unprecedented drains. Second, illogical approvals which have been given in the previous governments. Now, how do we deal with it? That's what I'm trying to ask you. Third, there have also been lot of lake rejuvenation which had to happen, which never happened. In fact, I was just going through the because it's easier to pinpoint the present government. Fair enough, but kindly also bear with me. The same Siddaramaiah on 16th October 2017, he himself made a point. Yes, there has to be rejuvenation of lakes, but what did it happen? The point is this: that at a point of time, if you want to think that what is the action to be taken, if you are taking an action to demolish certain things, people will go to court. At the same time, the building, or rather the activities of the building has to happen. The roads have to be constructed. So it is a
Aishwarya Mahadev, one of the defenses of the BJP government is that a lot of these illegal constructions happened on your watch. And therefore, they are now having to try and demolish these buildings where people are going to court, but a lot of this actually happened on your watch. How do you respond to that, Aishwarya Mahadev?
Good evening, Rahul. I'm just glad that Mr. Bommai has blamed only this government and not Nehru or even the founder of Bangalore, Kempe Gowda himself. And you know, Rahul, I will systematically answer everything that he has spoken about, from unprecedented rains to these accusations, right? First and foremost, if these accusations were there of all these years, you know, first, you need to acknowledge that Bangalore as an IT city is basically also part of the Congres and what they allowed in the sort of development that we brought in. One. Second thing, you also from 2009, you know, you may have had 3 chief ministers and 2 mired in corruption to realize, but you did have a 5-year tenure as a BJP government to set things right. And let's talk about today, Rahul, and now they talk about, you know, everything to do with Mr. Siddaramaiah's regime. And if you are a government of a difference, you know, even acceding to your point that we may have been wrong, you have had 3 entire years of a double engine Sarkar to set things right, and you did nothing. Now, the second part of this, Rahul, is that, he spoke about unprecedented rains 100 years ago. And, unfortunately, back then they didn't have the Met department as advanced as it is now. 2 months ago, the state was given a very severe alert saying, in August, September, you're going to see massive rains and possibility of inundation, and the inclement weather is going to continue for a while. And this was not for them to just sit and pray to. This was for them to be prepared. Their lack of preparedness is appalling, and they want to talk about what has happened over 20 years. Yes, there's a lot that can be spoken about the unscientific growth of my city, Rahul. But the fact remains that when they had clear alerts, when they had clear information, what on earth were they doing? I'll tell you what they were doing. They were too busy about loudspeakers, what people wear, what people eat. And that was the only
Rahul,
agenda.
I think we are deviating.
We're not deviating. You had a clear warning. What did you do about
answer to the point as to why approvals were given.
The department told you what had happened.
May the viewers
What have
also
you
know as to
done?
why approvals
No,
were
but this
given.
is an important question. Madhu Rao, we can quibble about what happened in the past. Aishwarya Mahadev asks, given the kind of detailing that is now available through the Met Department, a lot of this was anticipated. You didn't prepare the citizens of Bengaluru better. They should have known that trouble of this scale was coming. They should have been better prepared for it. That's the least you could have done.
I will answer that. First of all, I think it's not right on the Congress spokesperson's part to say that we were busy in hijab and all, because they were not our issues. They were taken by they were to the High Court by some third party. So let's not talk about that. Point number one. Now, point number two. Yes, the Met Department had given the information, but the point is, it was never to this extent we thought, Rahul. Okay, fair enough. Even if you were to think like that, you mean to say that we should demolish all the buildings right away like that? What alternatives do we have for having done so much of holla galla in the last 20, 30 years? You expect us to be corrected within a day, within 2 months? Does it make sense? Does it make sense to the Congress? I am asking you one question. Now you have given a lot of permissions. The Raja Kaluways have come lesser. There is no interlinking of lakes. You mean to say that was done by BJP? Come on, let's not take pot shots on this. That's why I told you in the beginning, I do not want to talk like a politician or representing a political party. My only submission is this: there has to be a critical, important steps to be taken, and we are telling.
No, one second, Madhu Rao, I don't understand why you don't want to talk like a politician. You are a politician. You jolly well answer for what's happening on your watch. Very comfortably today, you're saying you don't want to act and think like and talk like a politician. Sir, why not? You are responsible for ensuring that infrastructure in Bengaluru is able to deal with what nature throws at it. Climate change is a reality. You can't say today, I don't want to talk like a politician. Why not? Then why are you here? You are responsible for part of the mess that we are dealing with.
Rahul, I told I do not want to take pot shots at the starting itself, but having said that, we never want to get away from the situation or running away from the situation. We are telling you that we have taken steps to demolish some of the buildings which are built under the buffer zone of 70 meters. I think Ms. Ramchandra sir also would accept. Why was this action not taken by the Congress government? Had it been taken that point of time, we would have not been in such a situation. Can they answer this, by the way?
Okay, let me put that question to Aishwarya Mahadev. I have over here a list of 43 lakes which have been breached because you've got different kinds of constructions that have come over there. Whichever lake you take, in some places you've got commercial buildings, in some places you've got residential area, in some places there are mills, in some places there are stadiums, but this happened as much on the watch of the Congress government as it did on the watch of the BJP. Therefore, Aishwarya Mahadev, you tonight cannot run away from your responsibility and what happened on the watch of your party.
Rahul, I can say this with full conviction that, post 1990s and also in the early 2000s, that what was a small city became a logistics hub and an IT hub because of the efforts of the government back then to invite investment. If Bangalore today has 39% of all the IT exports for the country, it is because of concerted efforts of bringing in these companies. We also have to concede that over time, the sort of growth or the urban sprawl or the population explosion was something that Bangalore had not even planned. And even if you talk about the Raj Kalways, there's been discussion about it for decades, and I've previously...
Now they're on the back foot.
I think
they're trying to support themselves.
Nobody's trying to support anybody. Honestly, if you were given the task of doing
Come
it,
on. Rahul, how
don't interrupt. I think, Rahul, your show is beyond this. Please, courtesy. I did not interrupt you. Rahul, so I think a large part of, I believe this unscientific growth and also development, because I also remember the early 2009 and 2010s also, where this idea of unscientific planning didn't even come up as a part of being part of the problem. And I think more recently is when it became a huge issue. And Rahul, today, and I think, for the large part, whether it's under our successive governments or whether looking at the Raj Kalves again, or even looking at, the Akrama, like basically the encroached properties, I think there's a lot that's been done. But Rahul, I want to answer one specific thing that the BJP spoke about, right? He's saying, oh, we had notice from the Met Department, we couldn't raise encroached properties. It's not that. Rahul, as much as you're showing us luxury societies and condos and everything today, the underserved, the migrants, the slum areas, it's not only a fiscal loss that they face, their entire lives, their houses are broken, they have nothing else, they're out on the street. The Chief Minister said he'll compensate the commercial agencies of the outer ring road, but he needs to come up with a feasible fiscal plan. You cannot lackadaisically say, oh no, we couldn't have changed the encroachment issues in 2 months. No, sir, you could have been prepared to move people in at-risk
Let me put that question to Dr. Ramachandra. Do you think, given the forecast that the Met Department had access to, that the state government failed to prepare the city better? That while of course encroachment needs to be dealt with, but that's a longer term problem to be tackled. In the short term, the government should have done much more to ensure that Bengalurians knew what was coming at them.
Well, we all knew about the imminent heavy rain in Bangalore, but unfortunately the BBMP didn't do the needful job. See, the fragmented governance is the root cause of our problem. Of the whatever Aishwarya is talking about or Madhurao is talking about, what we need to do is, what we require is a solution. Mistakes have happened. At least let us now solve the problem. Let us re-establish the interconnectivity. How long we can continue with this blaming each other? We are talking about 21st century and we need to bring the city to that level. So let us move forward with that. First and foremost thing is, let us decongest Bangalore. Second thing is fragmented governance. We have to put an end to that. I'll give a good example because, between two lakes, that region is called valley zone, which has to be protected. If you look at in the last decade, those regions, the SEZs have come. You can see there are tech parks are there in that the protected zone. That means everyone has done the mistake, and it is too difficult, to take any measures which will give the solution in a short notice. What we need to do is, we should not discuss this only during the flood period. Even when rain recedes, we should start working on that. If you look at Bengaluru and Vartur Lake, NGT said it has to be rejuvenated. Even after taking up rejuvenation, encroachments are happening. Buffer zone violations are happening. I am in the committee. BBMP doesn't know who is doing it. They are supposed to have the online portal with all the data on that. Even that data, which was functional when NGT committee was there, the moment that NGT committee submitted a report, these people, even that data, they have stopped the thing. And even automatic sensors were supposed to be there in the lake and the wastewater treatment. Even that is not happening. Then what is this smartness they are talking about, or a smart city? Just I see the money is being spent. There is no improvement in the basic communities. So I think what my country has to do is, let these politicians stop accusing each other. Now the solution we require as a citizen, as a scientist, we demand the solution for the problem. Our children cannot face this crisis forever. So we need to do that. It is not a question of who wins or who loses. I say our children and our people.
Madhu, that's an important point. I want you to answer that before I wrap up. That we need to move from a blame game mentality to a solutions mentality. There are top experts. Even once the water recedes, you need to talk to them, determine what can be done to chart out the way forward. Otherwise, when it rains again the next time, we'll be back to the same situation.
Rahul, that's one of the reasons I told you that I do not want to take pot shots at any one point, number one. Now, tomorrow there is a meeting which is being called for by the Chief Minister, and when we were talking about the compensation which is to be given, kindly understand that there is a compensation methodology which has been worked out in the Revenue Act and the Land Grabbers Act, so we need to work out on that. And also, although I think tomorrow there will be some major decisions will be taken by the government with regard to easing out the problems what is happening in Bangalore. That I can tell you.
Okay, I'll leave it over there. We will see whether or not attention is paid once the water recedes. When the city is deluged, you know, they called it 10 drowning street in case Rishi Sunak wants to come back, memes breaking the internet, but that isn't good enough. All kinds of stuff. You don't just need to know coding, you also now need to know swimming if you want to be in Bengaluru, and more such people having, you know, trying to make the most of a tough situation. But the intensity of effort needs to continue even once the water recedes. Otherwise, next time there is heavy rainfall, we could just play this tape back over again rather than having to do a fresh telecast, and that would be deeply disturbing. Let's see whether, and I really like the kind of ideas that Dr. T.V. Ramachandra had. Hats off to his research, his knowledge, and the passion that he brings. That's the kind of expertise that must be tapped into. You're on board the Newstrack. The iconic 3-kilometer stretch in Delhi called Rajpath is set to be renamed. Rajpath, literally translated to Kingsway, a name given by the British to the stretch from India Gate to Rashtrapati Bhavan. Now the road will be called Kartavya Path, meaning the road of duty. The opposition is seeing red.
Charting a new path. A landscape of state symbols and of legacies of the British Raj is set to undergo an identity overhaul.
अब देश बड़े संकल्प लेकर के ही चलेगा। किसी भी कोने में हमारे मन के भीतर, हमारे आदतों के भीतर गुलामी का एक भी अंश अगर भी अभी भी है, तो उसको किसी भी हालत में बचने नहीं देना।
In line with its resolve, the Modi government has decided to rename Rajpath in central Delhi as Kartavya Path. The stretch with its manicured lawns on either side, a public space for the annual January 26th parade, a wide ceremonial boulevard will take the last traces of the Raj legacy off its pedestal. The move comes ahead of the inauguration of the brand new Central Vista by the Prime Minister, scheduled for Thursday. The revamped avenue takes into its fold the new Kartavya Path, running from the Rashtrapati Bhavan on the Raisina Hills through the Vijay Chowk and India Gate. Before it was named Rajpath post-independence, the stretch was called Kingsway in honor of King George V, the British monarch who visited Delhi in 1911. For the Modi government, the name change rises above symbolism. Its message to the ruling class is loud and clear. The era of Rajas and Praja, rulers and subjects, is over. Earlier, the name of the street on which the Prime Minister's residence is located was changed from the Racecourse Road to Lok Kalyan Marg. On Friday, the Prime Minister unveiled the Indian Navy's new ensign, St. George's Cross, dropped from the new emblem. The royal seal of Chhatrapati Shivaji Maharaj incorporated.
आज से भारतीय नौसेना को एक नया ध्वज मिला है। अब तक भारतीय नौसेना के ध्वज पर गुलामी की पहचान बनी हुई थी, लेकिन अब आज से छत्रपति शिवाजी महाराज से प्रेरित नौसेना का नया ध्वज समंदर और आसमान में लहराएगा।
Opposition, which had slammed the Central Vista project, attacked the name change. TMC's Mahua Moitra said Prime Minister's residence should be renamed King Kartavya Vimood Math, which translates into someone who is clueless and indecisive. While Congress called it an attempt to divert attention from core issues.
मोदी जी का ये खिलौना है ध्यान हटाने का खेल खेलते रहते हैं। मैं उनसे कहना चाहता हूँ, अरे दम है तो एक बढ़िया बनाओ, उसका नाम रख दो कर्तव्य पथ। कर्तव्य कहाँ से फिटन हो रहा है मुझे बता दें, और कर्तव्य पथ को अगर वो जस्टिफाई करते हैं तो एक कर्तव्य पथ के लिए नई चीज बना, उसका नामकरण करें। जनपथ और राजपथ दोनों का सामंजस्य, उसे छेड़कर मोदी जी अपनी अकर्मण्यता, असफलता को स्वीकार कर रहे हैं।
The Modi government's idea of Indianness by Indians takes a giant leap forward. But renaming it has turned it into a political fight. Bureau Report, India Today.
This is where I wrap up the Newstrack tonight. For your time and your trust, thank you very much. I look forward to seeing you 8 p.m. tomorrow evening. Till then, from all of us here, goodbye, good night.